Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Longbangers Thursday phone-in, except it's not Thursday, it's Tuesday, and we're doing it early because some things have happened at Hibs today. Those things being the firing of Nick Montgomery and the hiring of Malky Mackay. And safe to say, both events kind of triggered some fairly significant reaction in the online Hibs community. So we thought rather than letting it pass till Thursday, by then we'll have forgotten all about it because we'll have played Motherwell. I thought we'll bring the phone in forward, do it tonight, um, and get everybody's views on it. Now, if you want to join in on the conversation, you can still dial in. It's open to subscribers. You can subscribe on YouTube at the YouTube members section, which you'll find on our page if you're watching this already. You can also subscribe at Hubwave, but what I would say is Hubwave is a bit broken at the moment. So again, apologies to anybody who's subscribing on there. The episodes aren't pulling through to the podcast players. They are there for you to access. Or you can go to Patreon where you do get the episodes pulling through, and you've got a 7-day free trial as well. So you can sign up there. And you can jump on as well. Even though we've already started, we will let you in to speak. We want to get to hear from as many folk as possible. So fire in. We do have the comments as well. So if you want to contribute but no talk, you can chuck a comment in. And if I remember, I will come back to the comments and read them out as well. No guarantee of that. We're hoping to be on for probably the next hour or so. Might be a wee bit shorter, might be a wee bit longer, depending on the chat. And I just want to say a thanks to Leaf Spirits who help us produce these podcasts. So I suppose let's just get struck right into it. Other John, you can just be John tonight because our John is on leave of absence for the his daughter's birthday. So happy birthday to John's daughter. John, what do you make of things? Where do you want to start with it?
Well, I clearly put the case forward last week for Monty to stay and
Good
see it
work.
out, get a transfer window in the summer. If you don't put an opinion forward, you can never be wrong. After the weekend, I think he became inevitable. I think that there was too much in the performance that wasn't there. There wasn't enough bite. We could see ourselves with a relatively poor Aberdeen team, who we got 16 shots off against, missed a one-on-one. They were just fighting harder in midfield. They had more desire on the pitch. Um, and I was at the bottom of just about to go to the ground as the fourth went in, and was wandering up in the rain, waiting like everybody else, getting sold to the barrier. It just felt at that point that it didn't matter what he did from then on, he wasn't going to survive. Um, so I think the club have made the best decision they could in making the decision now. But I'd repeat what I've said a couple of things. This is a decision. This is could have been made 3 weeks ago, and have been 3 weeks ahead. Even if it just been David Gray
Mm.
taking the team, I think we'd have a much better feel to where we are.
That's a really good point. And I also want to know how I never saw you at the barrier because I was also standing getting soaked in that pissing rain at the
Well,
barrier outside the west after the game. So
I did wink at you in the station, but you didn't recognise me. Clearly, I
oh,
was too.
I get that a lot. To be fair, I normally have to
Yeah,
just
you
pretend
were
I've not
walking.
seen it.
You had your wee red flower on in front of the
Aye, my
train
carnation.
timetable board, so you must have been meeting somebody. So I just left you in peace.
Aye. Normally what happens, folks stop and they go, George, George, and I think it's George Clooney, and I have to tell them it's no George Clooney, it's Mario from Longbangers. And they go, oh, fucking hell, no you. Um, right. What did you think then? So the right decision to sack
Yes,
Monty.
yes.
Um, I guess no way back after the way that we played on Sunday.
No way back. I think Tracy mentioned it in saying one of the few people that I saw online. He just a broken Rocky. And I mean, given that interview after the match, that just gave you that insight, and you thought if that's how he's feeling when he's doing that, there's too much going wrong in the background. Whether the board have put too much pressure on the players and the staff, things aren't going right. Everybody's trying really, really hard, but it's not working. And that was it. It's not working. And you put all of that together, he was never going to come back from it. I mean, I wanted him to come back from it. I wanted him of the time to get the changes. But after the weekend, after seeing particularly the Rockies one, no, there was no coming back. I think the one thing I got wrong at the weekend was Colin was absolutely right. There's no way Stevenson should have been brought on, but it felt like the only thing that would have rescued the day.
Aye, I think it was. I got pulled up for somebody for talking about throwing a pie if Stevenson had got on. I was only joking about it for the avoidance of doubt. Jeff, I'll bring you in just now. What's your take on everything that's happened today?
Yeah, I wasn't surprised at the sacking. And a few people have said it could have happened after the Motherwell game. And looking back, why not if they're going to sack him anyway? I don't think Sunday's game was the catalyst for it, if you like. I just think it was just like the straw that broke the camel's back and just get it over with. Since the Black Knights' involvement, I just felt, reading the mood in the club, that his coat was on a sugary peg anyway. No matter what happened, I don't think he was a manager that the club wanted. If the Black Knights had been involved back in, when was he signed? September?
Yeah.
He wouldn't have been here. I'm sorry, on a personal level, I'm sorry for him. I really am, because he's uprooted his family from Australia. But on a professional level, no way he could probably stop and then be trusted with a transfer budget. And I think you made the point, and several others, several players have gone backwards under him. He hasn't sorted the defence out. Other managers have come in temporary, sorted the defence out and got results, as in the Aberdeen guy, leaving, is it, on Sunday. Don Cowie has done a good job at Ross County, ironically. So yeah, I'm sad to see him go, because it means it hasn't worked out, and we're yet looking for yet another manager. But it is the time for him to go.
Fair dues, Tracy. What were you? Where do you stand on the dismissal?
Yeah, I was surprised it wasn't yesterday, to be fair, just because of everything that was going on Sunday after the defeat. I mean, as I said online today, first and foremost, just like Jeff touched on, that's 3 men that have lost their jobs, have moved their families to different countries. So on a personal level, it's sad for them, because that's a big thing. It's a big upheaval for them. We know it's football. We know what happens. They know when they take the job, but still on a human level, I think we can all feel for him with that. I felt really awkward watching his interview with Luke on Sunday. I had to actually turn it off, because I just thought it was great. Luke was brilliant. He asked all the right questions, but it was just so uncomfortable to watch. And I really felt for Rocky as well. I just don't think we should have tagged him in it. One of the players that gets the most abuse. We've let in 4 goals. Well done to him for coming out. He was probably on the rota for that day to do it anyway, but the fact that he still had the balls to come out and talk, I think that says a lot for him. And he does wear his heart on his sleeve, and I think that showed in his interview. But I felt the players looked mentally broken. I don't know if we're overfeeding that, giving them too much data to mull over and too much information, instead of just going back to basics and then build from there. I don't know. I think it's the right decision by the club. It had to come after Sunday, sorry. But yeah, I do feel for him. But I think it's what's needed.
I thought it was interesting with Rocky, and I haven't seen all of his interviews, but the one that I did, I read it in the Observer. He almost sort of refused to back the manager. And I thought it was like an interesting choice of words, when whoever had asked the question had sort of said, if he's let the manager down, and he didn't say like, yeah, we let the manager down. He's like, it's not really about that. And he deflected and started talking about individuals in the team, and moving on to sort of Wednesday night to do it for Paul and Lewis. But there was like almost like a sense that he was ignoring that part of, is it the manager's fault, or are you behind the manager, just to deflect away from it. And I thought that was interesting, and it's an interesting point about tagging him as well, Tracy. For Monty, could there have been a way back for him, do you think, had things panned out differently?
No, I don't think so. I think the statement as well, I think we all probably agreed that he'd been more or less chucked under a bus. In that statement, nobody had put their name to it. It was just the board, which I thought was a bit leadership-less.
It was the post-match was the first time that Monty had acknowledged that the helpful
Yeah.
as well. I think it was in the interview with Luke. By the way, Dundee are beating Rangers 2-0. Thanks, Ian Tocco, on the YouTube comments. So when things are bad for us, it's
and as much as you don't try and let outside stuff, just like, if you've got problems going on at home or whatever, you try not to take them into your work. It's just like the outside noise with the club, you try not to let it affect you, but it is going to affect you. As much as you try not to let it is going to affect you, and it will have had an effect on the players and Tim.
Of course. James, bring in next. So where are you at with the dismissal, first of all?
Well, I was like Jeff, backed him all the way, even on the last phone in. I was still saying give him time. Yeah, I was getting closer to the fence after Ross County, but as I tweeted after Sunday, I'm over the fence and down the road. It was just appalling. We should never be losing 4-0 to that lot. They were dreadful, but they were better than us. So you take your punishment, but 4-0 at home and away and scoring in the 93rd minute just summed it up. What, 16-year-old? I mean, I was still on the ground when he took the corner, so he didn't get the strength to reach the 6-yard box with it. And then he shut us up with scoring. So, yeah, I had to go. Am I sad to see him go? Nah, not really. The results were, the season was dead. The season was dying out. It was just getting worse. The statement, maybe they just on the beach for them. I don't know. It's hard to tell. Hindsight's great and all that, but got to move on. But I just didn't need to make this next call right. And the second call of the day, wasn't he, from my point?
Do you think it looked on Sunday that the players had, I think what I said, they were chucked it, right? But I think Luke Shanley used the question asking if the players were on holiday already. Did you get a sense of that on Sunday, James?
Some have, some haven't. I mean, I don't really like singling out players, but I think Marcondes has been on the beach for a few weeks now. I don't blame him because the guy's got to get one last contract. He's got a contract at the end of the summer. If he gets injured now, there's a very good chance he doesn't get picked up next year. So there is a choice argument there. It could be some players just know up to scratch. Some are just no come back for injury. Just try not to point fingers, but yeah, there's bits and bobs all around the team. It just looks lazy, looks out of it. And the only one I can say I'm enjoying watching is still Melida, but even he looked out of sorts. And that's the first time he's looked a bit. So something's got to be wrong. And it can't be the players every time. Some of these players have only been with us a few months. So it's unprofessional to get up the ghost. But how many times have we seen teams come to us, Aberdeen, for example? It only takes 2 or 3 to throw the towel in and the team just falls apart.
Yeah, and I think the worrying thing for me is as soon as we conceded, we knew. There was no surprise that went on to become 4. Because the heads just went. John, you had your hand up there.
It was just what James was saying about that injury. I mean, I was walking up the road with my brother, and he said it looked as if we had a load of players who are on loan who didn't want to get injured ahead of their contract in the summer. And as you say, too many players coming back from an injury who don't want to pick something else up. They're thinking about pre-season, their holidays, and getting ready for next season. So yet heads are away for good individual reasons. I mean, they've all got their own journeys. They've all been through lots in the past few months. But it just, as you say, that first goal went into an unmarked player in the D, and we melted.
Aye. So we've got two people joined us as the calls come in. So Dave, hello, and then also have Zoom user. Now, I know we've met, but I have to apologise. I can't remember your name. If you want to bring yourself off mute, introduce yourself and let us know what you're thinking.
Hi guys,
Hiya.
I'm Chef.
How's it going?
I think I met you at one of the SOS meetings at Easter Road when you
did,
attended that. So I'll know you, then I know Dave.
Nice one.
I think with the club just now, it's a very toxic atmosphere. I think about everything's like disjointed. I'm not sure if it's like the players not liking the manager or vice versa, or the players not like adapting to the tactics or whatever. But it's very toxic especially with the fans as well. You can hear the boos on Sunday, then players leaving at half time. or when the third goal went in at I think it was like the 53rd minute.
Mhm.
So Montgomery's sacking, I think, was very inevitable after Sunday. But if it wasn't after Sunday, I think it should have been after tomorrow night. But it's very tough at the minute. But you can only see what happens in the future. And any manager that comes in now, it's like, all I can do is support them until they leave.
That's the question on. I remember it was on one of the WhatsApp groups I'm in earlier. Do you think the time that for the day to get it in before tomorrow, just so that Paul and Lewis can chalk up another casualty, like they've seen off another manager before they go?
It kind of looks like that. It kind of looks like that, but I'm it's so hard looking from like the stands. Like you don't really know what's actually going inside the club until unless you're somewhat involved in behind the scenes. So it's very hard to tell what's actually going on.
It is. Dave, welcome back.
Hi.
What did you think when you saw the news this morning?
I wasn't really surprised, especially after the result. But I think you look at the attendance on Sunday. The players must pick up on that. I think it was a dead man walking. There was just too much noise, and I think the players probably had lost belief in what his messaging and his tactics or whatever, and that's maybe been reflected in the performance. But what a Tuesday it's been the day though, and I felt quite excited initially. I think, well, there's a real good chance to get a new manager in, a fresh start at the start of the season. We've done it at the right time. There was a lot of positives you could take for changing the manager. We've done it now, no 4 games in or 5 games in. And I generally was getting a wee kind of feel good about next season, where I was pretty down on Hibs, as a lot of people have been, to be fair.
Mm-hmm.
But who would have thought the day would have unfolded? But I think it's the right thing for the club. It didn't work for the guy, lovely guy, but we were the wrong fit for him. And it's going to take somebody special, I guess, or the right kind of appointment to kind of turn it around. But imagine the new guy coming in and he signs Paul Hanlon. What a way to win over some support.
There was, I think Paul in his press conference today was talking about not wanting to leave. What a U-turn that would be if we had Paul Hanlon for another season, get Lewis and table, we're at it. Right, I've got a question, and I don't mind who takes this one. Right, we're on. I think I tried to count up earlier on, and it was about 400 or 500 managers since Jack Ross got dismissed. Where's it going wrong? Right, why are we having such a problem getting the managerial appointments right? Who wants to have a stab at that one?
I'll have a go if you want.
Go for it.
I think that when the Gordons came in, I think they thought they could buy young, buy cheap, and sort of build and create money that way. And that up to Maloney was the process of what they were doing. We could see that with the signings. But that melted down on them really quickly as the reality of a 12-team league with 11 other teams that are just really, really hard to beat. Put 3 at centre back, play hard, play fast, play athletically, and suddenly they had to go for the really experienced manager. But by that point, they've already committed to a huge number of young prospects, which are, again, a lot of those players. We've done them a service by putting them out on loan, but actually they've not done the club a service, by being on our books. No criticism to the players. We offered the contracts, but we bloated it in that really, really failed. Is it Moneyball they talk about, where you just look at the stats and try and make money? So I think they've tried to Moneyball it then. They brought Lee Johnson in, having been sold in that 7-hour meeting that they supposedly had with the board. 2882 and everything else that was thrown at it in terms of somebody who knows what he's doing, being successful at Bristol, and who can redesign stuff. And it had no impact, but actually the squad has just become more bloated. And they've changed again. So I think it's you've mentioned strategy a couple of times in some of your podcasts. Get yourself sorted as a football club. And that's the problem. They've tried 4 or 5 different things, and it's not a normal business. Football doesn't react well to you continually changing what you want to do, because you've got somebody on a 4-year contract. They're not a 0 hours contract worker that you can just tell them not to come in next week. And to me, that's how they've got into it, by having a really naive view about what they were going to do. And that's where hopefully the Black Knights and some sort of knowledge that they've picked up in a couple of years down at Bournemouth influence us.
Jeff, you had your hand up there. You want to come in?
Yeah, just quickly. One of my best friends managed for a while, played football, and he said it right from the start. It doesn't matter how good a manager you are, it all stems. Your survival depends on recruitment. It's as simple as that. He says, and also you've got to make in-game decisions. That's obviously a part of it. He says, but if you don't get the recruitment right, you're toast. Doesn't matter what you do on the pitch. You're working with. You can only piss with the cock you've got, and he didn't have a cock that suited him when he came to Hibs. Excuse me, Tracy. Sorry about that. I appreciate you're a virgin and everything.
You'd hear me at the football, you wouldn't be apologising.
Yeah, but he's right. I mean, my mate, he's been wrong about a few Hibs players, but you think about it, it is about recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
You recruit a couple of good centre halves, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. A decent, all concrete midfielder, but that's just the way it goes. We're suffering.
We expect managers to improve what we've got, though, and get players. We've got a reasonable crop of players that have been underperforming, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. Whether that's down to tactics or training or the messaging or something kind of made the players less effective than they were or could be, in my opinion.
I was on the radio earlier doing a wee bit on Hibs, and Mikey Stewart was on, and he was really, really critical of the decision to put Ian Gordon as head of recruitment when he came in. When Ron took over the club, I absolutely hammered the club for it. Is just sort of making the point that to do that at a club at our level was just insane. Do you think he has a point there? Anyway, James, I'll bring you in. What do you think of that? Do you think that having Ian Gordon as head of recruitment has set us back?
Yeah, it's a simple answer. I mean, you start experimenting at that level, and as you say, the recruitment is key. That's what's going to be your drive for the whole season. These are your players. These are the ones that are going to perform. And if you put your son, your best mate, somebody you know down the pub in charge, then it's just going to be failure. You need people that know, especially at the top end Premier League, you need the players and you need the knowledge to get results. If you just scattergun it and says, all right, we've got 50 players, let's pick 11 for that, we must be able to beat Ross County, no bother. And then Ross County, who are organised, got the players who work for a system, turn you over, it's no surprise.
Mm.
So, yeah, experiments like that at that level need to be nipped in the bud.
Tracy, you got your hand up there.
Yeah, no, I was just going to follow up on what Jeff was saying. Obviously, yeah, and recruitment is obviously one of the biggest points, and obviously you've got to get that correct, making sure that you're getting the right player in for every position, playing them out of position, they're the right character, they're going to fit into that dressing room as well, because it is a good dressing room at Hibs. They've all got each other's backs. It's they always make everyone feel welcome. So I can't say anything bad about the lads at all. I think club culture and environment's a big thing as well, and that's got to come from the top. I think you need somebody in there that's going to pull everything together, a bit like a George Craig that we had, that basically is on top of everything within that training centre, and can sort any issues out there and then, and just there has to be a togetherness there, because if there's not within that environment, then it's going to create an atmosphere, and that's not good for anybody working in that environment. So yeah, I just think we need somebody that's going to be able to pull all that together and start make everybody feel all together, because I feel that's not coming out of the club at the moment. So if it's not coming out of the club, then is it happening in the club?
We're going to come to YouTube comments in just a second, but on that subject, Tracy, there was a pretty scathing article for Scott Burns earlier on today on the back of Montgomery going. Now, I don't know how accurate this report was, but it referred to snitches or clipes in the dressing room, and
Yeah, I saw that.
you know, Monty not liking players or players not liking Monty, and you know, players getting put forward for the manager to look at. It was kind of presented in a negative way. They said they put forward a championship player that wasn't playing for his team at the moment, and I believe the player was Cujo at Dundee United, who's I think is quite highly rated. So it was kind of presented as a negative, but I would think most managers at most teams get players presented to them that, you know, have a look at them and they go, and I didn't fancy him. And then we didn't sign him, which appears to be the case here because Cujo remains at Dundee United and not at Hibs. So it didn't look like Montgomery's had his arm twisted to sign anybody. But Chase, you probably have out of all of us here the best sense of what the dressing room is like. What did you think when you saw that article, when you saw the reference to clipes and things like that?
Yeah, I didn't like reading that, and I was like, who's even said that? He's got that from somewhere, so who's leaked it?
Well, it's Martin Boyle. He told me. No, I'm only kidding.
It was his dad driving a taxi, wasn't it? But you know what I mean? It's like things like that. So who's leaked that? And for somebody's given a story to him and made it out that these players are this way and that way. I never had any problems with any players at all. They were all genuinely good people. And yeah, I just can't see that. But then I don't know what it's been like there. I've not worked with Nick and some of the players there, so I can't really comment. But from my time there, never had a problem with that dressing room at all.
Cool, Dave, you've got your hand up. I'll get that, and then I'll read some of the comments that we've got.
I'm just wondering if that's partly why Paul's leaving the club and the resistance to play him. I don't know if he's been seen as the old guard. He's seen of so many managers. If somehow he got labelled as somebody that was maybe too big an influence on the dressing room, and the managers maybe felt that he was a barrier to kind of like change. I'm only assuming that. I don't know why, but there's going to be a reason why Paul's leaving the club and he's not played with the former two centre-halves that we've had. There's been something behind that other than ability reasons. And just kind of like, we seem to like people who can talk. Our appointments, like, it feels like a salesman sold managers to us, and we've not recruited with our eyes, we've recruited with our ears. Like, I'm thinking Lee Johnson, he probably comes over fantastic if you're on a call and you're talking about football management. And where, if we're heading the direction where people are kind of wanting, we're now looking to go for the other end of the scale potentially, where we want a workman-like manager that's a kind of steady Eddie kind of thing. But maybe we're going at the opposite end of the direction, the kind of managerial scale. But it seems to me that if you could talk the talk, you got the job, and with no walking the walk's not been that important.
It's an interesting point because, I mean, definitely Lee Johnson was. He referenced it, and I apologize, I can't remember who mentioned the 8-hour interview process that Johnson talked about after. And I think he just pretty much railroaded his way to that job with PowerPoints and all the rest of it. But we definitely need somebody to back up. But one of the things that I was talking about earlier on was, and Tracy, I think you touched on it there as well, but having that somebody that's got that presence and that stature that they can kind of command respect at East Road and get on top of things at the training centre or in the dressing room. And I didn't feel like Montgomery ever had that. He wouldn't be my choice for the job this time round, but Neil Lennon had it in spades. I remember my son and I had won a competition through Eden Mill to go and watch training, and there was like a wee section after where Scotty Allen and Neil Lennon came out to do like a sort of press conference to the handful of folk that were there. And as soon as Lennon walked into the room, it's like the atmosphere changed. Like there was a difference, and he commanded that sort of respect. I think the same with Jack Ross. He had that with the players. I didn't ever get it for Lee Johnson, and I certainly didn't see it from Montgomery. I think that's one of the things Hibs need to be looking for with the next guy. Right, let me go to the comments. Right, first one's from Shay. Hi Shay. Says, hi guys, how is everyone? I think we're all right, mate. Thanks for asking. Stephen T says, even they're all really looking forward to this, reckon this could turn into a marathon podcast given the past 24 hours. We will stick to football. Marathons are not my specialist subject. Ian Talkhill said, some guys not happy with the announcement of Malky Mackay as director of football, but I see it as a chance now to get the changes that we need in early, as we will probably take a while to get a new manager. We'll talk about Malky Mackay next. I think we're about halfway through. So we'll come on to the Malky Mackay appointment next. Liam Reynolds said, surprised Mackay is willing to work with the Black Knights. We joke there. Stevie T said, agreed with Jeff. As much as I hate to put another manager in the bin when he's been hung out to dry by incompetent leadership. Ian said, players did look done in for sure. Edward said, after hearing about Malky Mackay, Hibs should sign David Goodwillie whilst they're at it. Stephen T said, football is fine margins, a couple of bad VAR decisions, and Hibs failed to make top six, which resulted in the statement and eventual downfall. Sunday's game felt like a friendly, incredibly strange. Danny says, shouldn't have to rely on fine margins, should be top six comfortably. On the Van Wagon said, agreed, Stephen, if we get a result against Hearts in December and don't get the VAR going against us, things could be decent. Erin Leslie said, Malky is my mum's cousin. We are all Hibs fans. Good. John Stevens says, I think Mackay has probably had some say in Monty's sack. It may not have been announced yet, but you can bet they've been talking to him pending his appointment. And Stephen said, I think what Dave is hinting at there is Klopp for Hibs. I can't remember what you said, Dave, that was hinting at Klopp for Hibs, but I'm sure we would take that. I've not heard if he's interested or not yet. James, you've got your hand up. We'll come to you and you make a point and then tell me what you think about Malky Mackay being announced as the sporting director.
Yeah, a couple of things. There was not a rumour, I don't know if it was either here or on Twitter or one of the chats, that Malky Mackay was suited and booted at one of the home games a couple of weeks ago. It just seems to now kind of ring true. Yeah, Malky Mackay is a strange one. So many different emotions today on that one. I started off completely livid as I replied to your tweets and what the fuck are we doing signing this idiot? And then all the other stories came out, which I knew of, and I ignorantly just thought he's a racist. I mean, the guy just, that's the way he thinks. But when you actually read into what actually happened, it's 10 years ago. It's a two-way conversation. It wasn't him putting on tweets saying whatever. It was conversations which were leaked and got out. So that took some of it off. But I'm actually finding if you defend them, you now get labelled a racist. It's just exploded.
Such is the way of the world, James, isn't it?
Oh, it's mental. I mean, some of the things he said, I was trying not to laugh because they're quite funny. But
I
in
wouldn't
this
go
day and
that
age,
far.
I'm an old racist as well, but hey ho, I keep these things to myself. But it was just, you try and defend them, and I'm not publicly defending, I just let it go. But I've just seen other people trying to say, yeah, it's a good appointment. The guy got top six with Ross County, he done with the SFA. Regarding the racism, the FA investigated and saw nothing wrong with it. There's no police record, there's no illegality. So the guy's got to be cut some slack. Let's see if he can do the job. But for me, it's still Malky Mackay, it's still the Ross County manager. It's that level of, is that really the level we want to be aiming at? And that's where I'm coming from. It's like, surely the Black Knights must have said, right, we need somebody who's going to just get good contacts across the world, can start bringing players in to be that technical director. And then it's Malky Mackay. And it was just like another kick in the balls, basically. But if he turns it around and proves us wrong, I'll hold my hands up and say I was wrong.
Jeff, you got your hand up there. Just I think just for the avoidance, like absolutely, podcast and myself personally abhor racism. Like we're not condoning that at all. James, I think what you were saying is sort of like a bit in jest, and it's certainly not something that we would support. Jeff, you got your hand up there.
Yeah, I did a bit of research into what happened in 2014, and it was somebody associated with Cardiff, the guy who handled the transfers, was the one who had 10,000 tweets or 10,000 messages on his phone that they investigated, which contained all the racist, sexist, misogynistic, homophobic tweets. So when you look against Mackay, his name's against as if he sent all those tweets. He was responsible for 3 of them. Now, I am not standing up for him. Absolutely no way. He shouldn't have, he shouldn't have sent one of them. And the ones he received, he should have gone, that's not appropriate. Please get off my phone. But that's where we are. He's done all the courses. He's paid his redemption, apparently. So that's the research that is. It was 3 tweets out of 10,000. He was caught, like a lot of people are. The friend's phone gets seized and they get called into an investigation. But it uncovered what he was like at that time. Okay. Is he the right man for the job at this time? I just think it's tone deaf by the club. With all the stuff that's going on, he might be the best appointment we've ever made. You know, he'll sort the club out, he'll get the signings right, he'll get the right manager. But at this point in time, is he the man that just gets us all singing and dancing? And, you know, I'm despondent about it. I hope it works out, and I hope all the noise surrounding him goes away. And I feel sorry for anyone that's been offended by his tweets, his messages. Sorry, but it just seems at this time, you know, we sacked Montgomery in the morning. Everybody's sort of like, well, it's the right thing. Maybe not happy about it, but you think, right, we're moving forward. And then this, you know, the Mackay announcement comes out, and I'm not slagging the guy off. You know, I don't know enough about him, but on the face of it, it just seems like another kick in the balls for the fans.
It's a hugely unnecessarily divisive appointment. That was what I thought about it. And
exactly.
One of the big concerns I've got, and Dave and John, I'll come to you in just a moment, is a lot was made when Malky Mackay was first kind of spotted hanging around or being around the club, you know, and having hospitality, etc. About his friendship with Malcolm McPherson, who's the chairman at the club, and you think, well, we've recruited a sporting director with a background that I think loads of people will find very, very unsavoury. You know, a lot of water's under the bridge, and people can rehabilitate and all the rest. I mean, you look at David Martindale at Livingston, right? Guy was in prison for drug dealings, being able to rehabilitate, get on with his life. And I definitely think there's a strong argument Malky Mackay should be allowed to get on with his life. But it was always going to divide opinion. But then the optics of it, when it's the chairman's mate, you think, is this jobs for the boys, or is he the best person for the job? So it's like more fuel on the fire. I just don't get. I don't get why we would do that. Dave, I'll come to you, and then John. I don't know. You still want to speak, John? Or so I'll go Dave, John, and then Shay. Dave, you go first.
Well, again, after feeling quite excited and optimistic for next year, and then the noise started maybe shifting towards Ben Kensell, and like all people are talking about is the appointment of Malky. So has Ben played a masterstroke? But you're right what you're saying. He's a big pal of Malcolm's, and is that a bit plagiarism? I don't know, but I hope the guy does a really good job at the club. And like, it's like the saying goes, those without sin cast the first stone. Whether you're standing in the terracing or you're a player with a kind of misdemeanor in your like Porto, and everybody makes mistakes in their life. You made a great case for Martindale there. He's done a lot of things that probably caused a lot of harm to people's family, and it's a real scourge, drugs. But he said what he said. He's done what he's done, and he's kind of took his medicine, hopefully, and hope that's a chapter that's behind him. But I think people will stop talking about it if we get a good manager and we go off to winning ways and we get back moving forward in a constructive way. But we've got a real way of self-harming. It's the timing was like unbelievable. It was kind of as the rumours were going round, it was like it'll not happen. But there you go, and it did. But
it is
just another day in the life of a Hibs supporter, right?
And I think now, you know, obviously, I think we all want them to be successful. I mean, that's why we're all here. We want the club to do well. John, what did you want to say?
I mean, ultimately, in terms of redemption, I mean, I had a quick look. Yeah, the League Managers Association calling it banter 10 years ago certainly didn't help anybody's cause.
Correct.
I don't think the 10-minute interview with David Tanner that I listened to before this was that convincing from Malky. It looked a wee bit staged, a wee bit overly done. But again, there was a huge investigation and transfers going on in the background, which is how they got all the messages in the first place. The other side of that is that where is the redemption arc? I mean, we've got 2 players on our books at the moment who've had convictions for drunk driving. We've handed one of them the captain's armband. I believe we've had a player on our book who's got a Scottish Cup medal who was involved in threatening and abusive behaviour towards an ex-partner. You know what I mean? So we have people and we give people a redemption arc. I think it's how the club have landed this is the problem. We have, quite rightly, the fan base called out the person who was up at Ross County and gave abuse to the player up there. I mean, we've explained how unacceptable that is. The club seems to have been putting out a message recently that racism is completely unacceptable in any form, won't be tolerated by the club, and there's a suggestion that it's a life ban. Now, that always feels very hard because there should always be a redemption arc. Whether the club need to use Malky and his history to build that forward. I mean, a very bad analogy, but Scott Allen did an awful lot of really good work around about diabetes. Now we need to taking that forward and raising awareness. Malky could be the guy in the background here. If you've got fans who've got problems in terms of how they're approaching, could he be used in that sense? How does the club turn this into a positive in the sense that here's somebody who made a mistake, and I mean learn from it and has moved on and is the right person for the job? But you've got to land that today. You don't just put out a fairly generic statement. You know what I mean? Dump on down and say he starts on the 1st of June because I only comes for an interview just now, you'll not find out for a couple of weeks. It could have landed so much better. You know what I mean? And you're allowed to have I mean, David Martindale is the best example. You know what I mean? In terms of there's a redemption arc. There's been a striker that better not touch the club, and it's been mentioned in the messages. You know what I mean? But that's where I would be. There's a redemption arc there. Club have screwed it up. I mean, I'm not 100% comfortable with it because I don't think you're allowed to not be comfortable with the horrific statements that were made. But land it better.
Yeah. Shay?
Before I start, my phone might die, so if it cut out
All right.
randomly, that's why. But
That's okay.
I've got a question before I make a point. It's probably a really rookie question, but is Malky Mackay the replacement for Brian McDermott?
It's a good question because it's not clear. I believe Brian McDermott's going to take a recruitment role, so oversee scouting and recruitment, and the director of the football role will be demised and I guess replaced by the sporting director role. But it's never been confirmed. That's just us kind of putting two together, and I quite frequently get things like that wrong. So who knows? I think Hibs need to confirm it. Again, it goes back to the sort of the lackluster messaging from the club of recent times. Right, I'll put your hand down, Shay, and hopefully your battery lasts out a bit longer. Tracy, you also had your hand up.
Yeah, just about Malky. Like everyone, not 100% comfortable with it. You know, I'm wondering if the press had got a hold of it and that's why they've had to do it so quickly. But again, it's just a statement. It's only the Gordon family that are mentioned in the statement.
Yeah.
Where's our CEO? I would expect him to be announcing something like that. I would expect an interview so that they can quash all this stuff as well and explain why that they've brought Malky in. I didn't know he was friends with Malcolm, to be honest. So that kind of is a bit, just because, you know, has he got it because he's friends or has he got it on merit? I don't know. You know, I think about the female staff. You know, it's hard enough being a female in this industry, but a lot of them might feel uncomfortable with it. The women's team train there sometimes as well. You know, has anybody spoken to them about this and posed it to the staff? Because at the end of the day, you're an employer and you have a responsibility for the well-being of your staff as well. I just think we can't ignore what he's done, but I do agree that, yeah, he wasn't charged with anything by the FA. I know, I'm not going to name names, but I know black players that have worked with him and have got nothing but good things to say about him. So that's got to count for something as well, because he's obviously not shown them signs of being racist like those messages suggest. So I think it's one of these ones where you're kind of, you can't ignore what they're saying. Obviously, we're going through the stuff with the supporter and the racist stuff. I just think just chucking the statement out, why did it even have to be done today? That's why I'm thinking the press have got hold of it, because I think it should have been maybe held off and done at a later time when it could have been done a little bit more properly as well. Because it's the outrage. Folk are wanting to cancel season tickets, a lot of females as well, which I can't argue with anybody for wanting to do that. So I completely see their points. I'm not dismissing, their thoughts on it. And, racism is one of the things I hate the most. I just absolutely hate it. And we have quite a diverse squad as well, so it does make you think, players maybe have just heard things, but maybe don't know much about Malky since, how do they feel about it? There's all these kind of things that come into question, I think. But the club haven't given us anything but a statement to go on.
Aye. It's like just wee scraps to go off of. Ian,
I do think he'll ruffle feathers though, and I think that's what we need.
Yeah. Ian, you look like you're out city centre somewhere. How are you doing?
No bad, Matty. Yeah, I'm on the 44 bus. I was just coming out of a union meeting to see Malky Mackay, and we just finished our union meeting discussing stand up to racism, etc. So you can imagine what my reaction was. I'm just horrified at the lack of ambition. I just regard Malky as being, very low level in terms of, smart ability, proven ability. It just really worries me that this is the level we've gone to a point what's a very senior position in the club. So very, very disappointing. Very disappointing indeed. That's all I can say.
What's behind that assessment of Malky? Ian, where do you go to say, like, I think he lacks ambition, or he doesn't have the ability for it?
Yeah, it's interesting you should say that. It's funny because, like everybody else, I've probably changed my mind on Monty over time, and it took a long time. And I suddenly realised, and I think it was highlighted on Longbangers, and also with your interview with Tom English today, that when you did jointly, his press conferences, as Tom English was saying as well, his press conferences, it just appeared to be that he wasn't very bright. It suddenly occurred to me, I thought, this guy's not very bright. And I think I explained previously, Matty, I sort of escaped to the West Stand briefly. And I escaped to the West Stand from the East when Malky was coaching Ross County. And I suddenly realised that he didn't know what he was doing because I was so close to him. Literally, I was 10 feet from him. And I couldn't believe how amateurish he seemed to be. And, just unprofessional. And he appeared to just be reactive at all times, So I just think he's very low quality. Very low quality, and I think we would bring in a head coach who is actually, I think, a better head coach than presumably his boss.
But I mean, I suppose you would want that, wouldn't you? You would, if Malky's job is not to be the manager, you would want a better manager than Malky Mackay in position as your head coach. I'll get the terminology right.
Yeah, I mean, yes, that's my point. I mean, if somebody's so I was director of coaching. I was director of coaching in my township in New Jersey, and we had 36 teams. Then we had about 30 coaches, including some professional coaches who were employed by the coaches. And it was my job to come up with curriculum. It was my job to come up with the coaching clinics, etc., and to set the strategy. And this is something I mentioned the last time I was on, Matty, is that and Tom English mentioned it today, and I think as well. Is this what are we trying to be? What is our objectives? Are we trying to win the Premiership? Are we trying to just be third? And if we're trying to be third, well, we're probably aiming for Malky Mackay is maybe okay, but we've got to just try and think bigger than that. And I just think I'm just so disappointed that that's the final made.
Okay. Colin, we haven't heard from you. I don't know if you were doing laps at HTC earlier on. What have you made of the conversation so far?
I wasn't doing laps. I've been a big walk. I'm just back at HTC now, though. I'm just here. So I'm just got to see if I can get anybody leaning out their car window. And give me the update.
Or somebody running behind you with a dildo.
I have listened to it. What everybody's saying. Until the last one, because I bumped into somebody there and I was talking to them. But aye, so what are you asking me?
Well, I suppose where do you stand on the Malky Mackay appointment? Let's get your view on it.
Aye, I was a bit surprised actually at the, I suppose the point of view in here in this chat that we're having now, because the outrage on Twitter seems a bit higher. We seem a bit more, not calm, but calm about it. Because having a quick look at Twitter earlier on before I left the house, it was a bit sending season ticket backs and sending them back and no going back and all that kind of stuff. And I thought, fucking hell, if it's done one thing, it's united the fan base. But this chat seems to be a bit more, and I didn't want to use the word reasonable, right? But that's what it's coming across as, like an understanding that, well, it was 10 years ago he made mistakes. He's apologised. Has he though? I don't know. You know what I mean? I think there was
there are articles online where he has apologised for it, and
Yeah.
also he was backed up by the Kick It Out, which I think used to be Kick Racism Out of Football. They commended him for the work that he had done post being on an education course through the English FA back in 2016.
Right, but it just seems a funny one, eh? I don't know. I think he's probably got all the qualifications and he's probably got all the contacts and that. It does feel a funny one though, like PR wise and that, as well as having that. He's got that hanging around him. People should be able to rehabilitate, right? Education and all that stuff to get through that. Although I'm not sure that's maybe a thing in this day and age with social media as much. It doesn't seem to be. It isn't a great thing what he done, but if he has apologised and he has went to the courses and he has done all that, then he should maybe get a second chance somewhere. He's had a second chance, I suppose. He's been to other places before he came here. The SFA have recruited him, Ross County have recruited him, so it's not like we're the first ones to recruit him after all that. It just feels like a bit of PR disaster though. To recruit him, you know, like
aye.
It's like we're probably getting, so it's taking heat off sacking another manager, but it's just making us not a laughing stock, because I don't know anybody's, well, probably the other teams are laughing about it, even though we're like outraged in that, and they'll be saying they're outraged, but actually what they'll be saying is freaking Hibs, look at them, laughing stock, recruiting racists and all that kind of stuff. That's what other teams will be saying. It's just a wee bit like, do they really need that? That's kind of where I'm at.
It does feel like an unnecessary hassle. Dave, you've got your hand up, and well, you'll get your point, Dave, and then we're approaching the end of the episode, so I'll go around and kind of get everybody's thoughts on who the next head coach might be. So, Dave, what did you want to come in and say?
I just wanted to pick up on something Ian mentioned there. I feel we've not had a kind of mission statement that's been publicised, almost like for the fear of failing or not hitting the targets, and then we kind of go after the board. I would like to hear for the leadership of the club what our intentions are and what success looks like for the next the season ahead, because right now we feel pretty rudderless, and you need a voice when times are bad. That's when you need good leaders to navigate you through it. But we go into hiding. So I want to hear who our new manager is, what failure looks like, what success looks like, and what time frame it's going to get delivered in. And beyond that, what's happening at HTC, what our strategy is for signing players, and what our expectations of getting youth into the team are. And the club should come ahead and put that out there. And if we hit it, great, everybody's happy. If it's a near miss, well, it's a near miss. And if it's a catastrophic failure, then somebody pays the price higher up, in my opinion.
Okay, right. So
can I just chime in there? See earlier on, right at the start, you asked about the managers and all the how many 500 or 400 we've been through since Jack Ross, I think you said, and Oh, yeah, that. And what do we need? Like, we genuinely, we were looking this up the other night after we spoke about it. What episode we covered the criteria that we're looking
Yeah.
for, what the manager needs to bring. The club need to do something like that. Like, this is what we actually need. This is what we expect. This is what we want. This is the targets, and then recruit to that criteria. Whereas, as you said in your Observer article last week, scattergun. It's like we've tried every type. We've tried the young up-and-coming Scottish manager. We've then went to the inexperienced one with all the fancy badges. We've then went to the 500-plus games manager. Then we went to an up-and-coming manager for a different country that, you know, it's like, what the fuck are we actually trying to do here? Like, what is it we want? What's the style of play meant to be? Who's got like a track record for that? Who's got good contacts? What, I don't know. What are the criteria? And I can't remember what we said in that episode because it was middle of September last year. But we need to actually do something with that and like create that. Whereas at the moment we're just like placating fans. You know, it's like they just sacked them the day to shut everybody up.
Aye.
So there wasn't too much booing them on night. Like they appointed McDermott just to say, everybody shut up, there's your director of football. No, he's not going to be a director of football, we've got to call him that. It's just like shut the fuck up appointments all over the place. And they need to actually have a strategy, a thought process of what they're actually trying to achieve. And then go and put the steps in to achieve it, rather than just getting everybody to shut the fuck up all the time. Like, we mind even Ian Gordon, he's mentioned that, head of recruitment.
Aye.
Then they deleted it off the website.
Mental.
You know what I mean? It's like, and that's Rangers went 3-2 up, by the way, to answer
For
the
fuck's
point
sake.
earlier. Aye. Anyway.
All right, thanks for that call. Ruined the night. As if things weren't
I know.
bad enough.
I was trying to get a photo, I was trying to stand in front of the sign a minute ago. Did you see me?
I noticed
was
it.
trying to stand
Aye,
like
I
a sign.
clocked
Aye,
it.
fucking in there. And then I clocked loads of parents in their cars probably and could look at that sack taking a photo of yourself. I wasn't if any of you are listening.
Right, what I'm going to do is go round. Dave, you're my top left. I'm going to round the screen and get. So I want two names from you, right? One, the realistic first choice manager that you would bring in, and then the second one, a fantasy. Like, if you could have anybody, who would you bring in? And basically, what I'm going to do there is just edit all your realistic ones out after and make these all look daft. Just look at these. They all wanted like Jurgen Klopp and fucking Pep coming in. I'm not going to do that, right? So Dave, a realistic one, and then maybe one that's less realistic from you.
Well, I don't know. The Dundee manager, he's been quite a steady Eddie, done well with kind of know the best group of players there. And that's an appointment we could really make. I don't think McInnes would come. And my fantasy appointment would be Lennon with the kind of the way it ended the last time, kind of Neil Lennon the first time round again.
A baggage-free Lennon. Who against no route his history, like if we're hanging folk out to dry for their past misdemeanours. John, what about you?
I think we've got to get ourselves sorted. If you're staying in Scotland, I think Stephen Robinson is the man you would go for again. He's had brushes with the courts in the past as well, but that came to nothing. But no, he's taken the St Mirren side, they've been solid. They're not that far ahead of us in the league, so it's trying not to convince ourselves that anybody above us in the league is brilliant. But he's stabilised the team, knows how to play in the league, has been successful with both Motherwell and St Mirren. So I think he would bring us in. And I'm really, just for the press conferences, I think we should get Dick Campbell.
Decent, aye. Tracy, what about you? Two names.
Right. Well, I've been battered on Twitter for this, but I'm sticking to my guns, and I think the man is already in the building, and I would give it to Dave. He is well respected by all staff, and we need to get back to that, I think, in there. He goes back to basics with the players. He's well respected by the players. He's a great leader. He's no wishy-washy. Even in his interview, just the way he speaks, the way he talks about the club, how important it is for the players to understand how important it is to play for this great club. You know, I actually felt a wee bit of pride when I heard him speak today. But no, I love Dave, and he's my man. I'm back him. And if I'm going for fantasy, I want Zinedine Zidane.
Decent, by the way. Again, finished his career right ahead, but you know, he assaulted somebody and.
Take no shit.
Right. On David Gray, Hibs have been grooming him for that position for years, haven't they? Like I said this when Montgomery was appointed, and I was massively in favour of Montgomery. Once his name came on the scene, I'm not going to try and gaslight anybody, rewrite history, and pretend that I was in favour. But I think we also had made the comment about David Gray to say he's been in coaching role at the club for a couple of years, but the intention I think has always been sort of to develop him up into the point where he gets to take charge of the team on a permanent
Can
basis.
I just say as well, he's not defence coach. That everybody's
No, I know.
given him that name, but he's never been the defence coach. So people just need to get that out their head because they think that's a good reason to get rid of him because he's a defence coach. But no, he's my man.
At some point you'll need to get it, and I think when we talked about it last year, you see maybe get him to go and take over at a smaller club and cut his teeth. But I think the problem with that is you see what happened with Marvin Bartley, who, you know, again I think loads of folk would be quite happy for Marvin to come and get the job. At some point, because now he's got a sack in at a lower level on his record, folk will go, he's not good enough for Hibs, and the same way, like managers invariably get sacked, don't they? Like even the best managers around the world will have a sacking on their CV somewhere, and that will happen with David Gray. So I think like if he's been primed for that job at some point you need to bite the bullet and give him the chance. James, how about you then? So a realistic one and a fantasy one?
Hard. Basically, I'm going with the Cardiff City connection with Malky and going for Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It'd be a good signing. He's free, done all right at Molde, then took on 2 basket cases, so nobody's getting into. And looking at the appointments today, it's probably more likely going to be Malky Mackay or somebody like
that. Fair dues. Jeff, how about you?
I'm off mute. Yeah, sorry. I think with the appointment of Malky Mackay, it rules out some of the ones I would have said sensible. Who's going to work under a technical director?
Mm-hmm.
So McInnes. Definitely won't. He wants total control, so that would rule him out. Robinson, I'm ambivalent about. David Gray, I think would be exciting, but I've said on various tweets we don't want another project manager. Let's get somebody in. Would David Gray be a project manager though? You know, he's played under quite a few. And he can pick out the best bits from all the ones, even the bad ones we've had. There must be some good bits. When I worked under an SIO and an investigation, I picked out the good bits. All my bosses as I rose the ranks, and you pick out the good bits. You don't want to be like the bad bits. So I don't know. You know, David Gray. Yeah, I wouldn't be averse to that. Mm-hmm. But with Malky Mackay there, doing the experienced hand on the shoulder bit, it might work. As much as I don't think we should have appointed Malky Mackay at this time, but we are where we are. Fantasy one, Ancelotti. Do you know why Ancelotti? I read an article the other day, and he says, "Look, when we lose the ball, that's when I coach the players. They need to know where they have to be when we lose the ball and how we defend." He says, "When we attack, I'm not going to tell Bellingham or that how to attack." He says they know what they're doing. He said, so that's my impression is we've been overcoached this season, honestly. Mm-hmm. You know, Ewan's gone from like explosive, taking players on left, right, and centre to suddenly pass, and not very good passes a lot of the time. I know he's got a lot of assists. I'm not slagging Ewan off because I love him.
Yeah.
Great bloke. So, yeah, Ancelotti's a fun one, but we just seem overcoached. I like David Gray, just get it back to basics. And there's Tracy Seven. I heard his interview today. It was refreshing after the dross we've had with Johnson. Johnson was one end of the spectrum, like bullshit central, and you've got Monty, who just comes across as a, like, I don't know, hostage victim, forced to talk to the camera. That's me anyway. Thanks very much.
No worries. Ian, same question to you.
It's very interesting your point about everyone being fired at some point, Matty, because Winston Churchill's definition of success was the ability to go from failure to failure with no loss of enthusiasm, which obviously is pretty good. But he's busy tonight. But now that we've set the stall out and set the standard for Malky, now that I understand better ways of thinking, he's busy tonight. Ian Murray is my first choice. Ian Murray, a long way. definitely. And my fantasy would be Ian Murray with Scott Brown as his assistant.
Decent. Colin, you want to have the last say?
On the manager, who I want.
Aye.
I think I'm coming round to Derek McInnes. Just purely because the media love him. Right? He's a good communicator. And you need to get folk on side. So, and he wins games.
Is he your realistic or fantasy one?
Oh, I think he's be realistic. You just chuck more money at him. But I appreciate what you said earlier in that he didn't leave Aberdeen for more money when he had the opportunity twice. But I bet you his Aberdeen money was supposed to have been pretty decent. He'll not be on that at Kilmarnock. We could offer him in the ballpark of that again. He would be here, I think.
What about your fantasy one?
Stephen A. Smith, as long as he could get his badges.
Fair enough. Right. On that note, thanks everybody for joining the call. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We might still do one on Thursday. We've not decided yet, Colin. We're on overtime tonight. John's not getting overtime because he's not pitched up. So it's just me and you, Colin, that get it. If we do, it'll be post match 8 o'clock on Thursday. We'll cover the Motherwell game and probably get a wee bit more feedback on how everybody's feeling once the dust is